to be here.
Rebbe doesn't want him to be here.
Of course I want to be here, but it's going away, I understand. Okay, let's go again. We're in the midst of this first Mishnah, and we've spoken. What happened? Oh, you're giving it out. Okay, good. And we've spoken about 3 provinces. Well, if you look at them, we'll go over the first 2 that we already learned in short. The first province is Kedusha Rishaynu, which is Oilei Mitzrayim, which is basically the map here from the Tzofim, from the top of Amona, and going west, both Eva Yarden and the Yarden, and going further south, and Eretz Moav, and all those lands on the right-hand side. That's a simple Kedusha Rishayim. Then you have Kedusha Shniya, and we said on that there's not, you don't eat after Zman Beer, whatever that pshat is, Machlokes Rishayim, what it means, Zman Beer, we're not going into it now, we went through it more than once, and then you're not allowed to work on the actual land as well. Then you have Kedusha Shniya, which is, since Kedusha Rishayim is only temporary, Kedusha Shniya, which is Oili Bavel. And we said basically, if you look at the dotted lines in this picture, it goes around that area of the dotted lines. Those dotted lines is considered Kedusha Shniya. The second, that's also, this Mishnah holds is also Lavai, and that Kedusha Shniya is the one that has both. Kedusha Rishayim only has that you can't work on the land, but you can eat it even after Zman Beer. Then you have number 3, which is technically what was Kivish Yochid. Zman David HaMelech went ahead and he did his own capturing and widening Eretz Yisrael. That already has more within of a Chutz La'aretz, and the last words of this Mishnah Aleph is Min hanoho ma'amona v'lifnim nechal v'nevet. You can eat it after Zman Beer, and you can work on the land. And it says over here 2 words: Min hanoho u'ma'amona v'lifnim. 2 demarcations: the Noah, the river, and Amona in words. So if you look at the map and you look at towards the bottom left-hand corner, which is the southwest, it says Min hanoah v'lifnim, meaning further down from the Noah. That's the end of the Noah, because if you look at the right-hand side, you see the Yam HaMelech, and below it continues a little bit of Noah. So anything below that area, the Hanoah also you have on the left-hand side of the Noah that goes down, this area from Min hanoah v'lifnim, further south, is considered not Eretz Yisrael, being Kedusha Rishayim and Kedusha Shniya. And also, if you look on the north, in the northern side, which is also, if you see the geography map, it's on the northwest side of Eretz Yisrael, right by the Mediterranean Sea. It says Amona, L'das HaRambam, and then there's another place, Amona. If you look higher up, it says L'das Kami Mefarshim, that's Amona, because Amona, there's a question which part of Amona it was. There's a question, and therefore it has 2 places where it gives you a demarcation place of Amona. So anything that goes further north or west from that area, northwest, is not considered of Kedusha Shniya or Kedusha Rishayim, and therefore the Mishnah says Nechal v'nevat. So let's see how he explains it in the Mefarshim. He says Min hanoah v'amona l'fnim, be it from the Nohar, which is the southwest, or Amona, which is toward the northwest. Anything going inwards or outwards, we'll see, is considered not part of Eretz Yisrael proper. And he says, Heim ha'mekoyim lo kofshim. These are areas that they did not capture. Afilo Oilei Mitzrayim, even though the Oilei Mitzrayim, which captured much greater swath of land than the Oili Bavel, or inhabited, we still don't consider it part of Eretz Yisrael. Ma'achish HaMishnah Sekes Ke'ez B'Mesh B'chutz V'Vuz Ha'aretz Raya Hoya Ligris Min Hanoah Mamona L'chutz. It says Milfnim. L'fi Agish L'V'neinu V'Lifnim. It says L'Fnim. So L'Farish, why say L'Fnim? It's not inside, but it's outside. Anything going outside, as we mentioned. You have to explain our Mishnah Mitchilas Hanoah V'Lifnim Hayimen. From the beginning of that part of the river and going further inside, Mitchilas Hamona L'Lifnim Hayimen. Dahainu Shanoah V'Hamona Atzmam Heim B'chutz L'Aretz. Meaning, Hamona and the Nahor were the actual border. What do we consider Hamona and what do we consider the Nahor? That's outside of Israel. Therefore, it says L'Lifnim, going inside. Yesh Menagdim Uleponim. Not Ulefnim, because really, usually he's towards the inside part. It means Uleponim, Shamashmoy Mikam Bahol. Is the halacha Nechel V'Never. Hoyel B'Chel Gzelin is Kaddish B'Kedush Eretz Yisrael Ma'oilo, because it was only a Kibbush Yochid, even if it was captured. L'cholim Boy Dina Shvi'is Klal. It doesn't have any halachis of Shvi'is. Now, what do we come out over here? We come out that there's 3 provinces, and we learned till now the pshat of the Rav and the Rash, and the Rosh. However, it could be learned a little bit differently, which we're going to go into now. Pirashnu es HaMishnah, those that have the map, we explain the Mishnah, Al Pi HaRash v'HaRosh. Be it according to the Rash of the Rosh, L'fi Perushim Ha'isa Ir Kiziv. If you look at the city of Kiziv, it's over there in the center part. You'll see over there, it says Kiziv. But Sofim Mizrach Ha'aretz, who was in the northeast of the land. V'chein Hanoah Hanisk Vishnu B'Sofim Mizrach Ha'aretz. North, considered the northeast. Like, meaning that's how you would explain it. But if you look at the map gives it with the other way of understanding it. That where was Kiziv? Kiziv was on the northwest of Eretz Yisrael. Samach Liyam, right by the Mediterranean Sea. Mahalach Yom Echad Ma'aku. There was 1 day's travel from Aku. What do we have? Aku here?
It's very close.
Aku's right underneath Kiziv.
Kiziv?
It's right here. Yeah.
Okay.
Seems like it would be like, I don't know, 3 hours?
What? From where to where?
Aqua to Kshiv.
You can't go with today's car times.
No cars, just walking.
Well, I don't know. It's difficult to understand. I don't know. Here he says, if you look at 4, it says, Yesh hamazim es kiziv be'eza hamokim hanikru kiyoyim akziv hanimsa l'choyf hayam. It's by the seashore. Kishloisha esra v'chetze kilometer tzvaynis la'aku. It was 13.5 kilometers, which isn't such a long thing. It's about 7 miles or whatever. But I guess it took a day. He considers that as a day's travel, maybe, because you do it for 7-8 hours.
8.38 miles.
8.38 miles.
Maybe
okay.
People weren't rushing like we are today.
Yeah.
So that's like at most 4 hours.
Right. This was brought down by the Vilna Gaon, Shnei Sel Yom. even though he said it doesn't make sense what he says now. That both Akku and Kiziv oim this besofin Ma'ariv Eretz Yisrael. They hold that it's in the northern west, even though I would say Kiziv over here, according to this, is more in the central part of Eretz Yisrael, not what you would call the northwest. Akku, Kiziv, Yidois B'Tzof Ma'ariv. Akku, Kiziv, Nesofis Yosim Mizrach was more east. But why it's called Amela West, I understand. But why it's called north? Maybe he means the northern part of the Kedusha Shniya. Because it is the north of Kedusha Shniya. If you look at the dotted line and the outline of what we're talking about over here, Kiziv is Taka, the northern part of the Oilei Bovel.
The first Kiddush was until Amana.
Yeah, it was up to there, yeah.
That was all until Amana was the scholar.
Yeah, right. There's a whole shaila about where Amana is, if you look. Now, okay, let's see what he says now. Al-Pi Rambam. Al-Pi Zeh. Pishu Rambam, it's brought down in the Rambam Hilchos Trumis, Ubechuvas Rambam, and it's also Chuvas Rambam, V'Hagra, Sheba Omrim Eretz Yisrael V'Ad Kiziv. Whenever it says Eretz Yisrael until Kiziv, where we say Kiziv is over there, that's the northern part of Kedusha Shniya. Bo HaMishnah L'Tzayin Es HaGvul HaAravi Shel Tchum Oilei Bovel. That was the western border of those that were Oilei Bovel. The Hainu Oilei Bovel Hapsiku B'Chol Haaretz Mitchilas HaGvul HaMizrach, from the eastern portion Ad Kiziv until the western portion. Shuba Marv, that Kiziv is in the western side. Marv Haaretz Samach Liyam, right by the Mediterranean Sea. Avul B'Kav Shebekiziv Marova Ad Choif Hayom. But from Kiziv until the actual seashore, Lo Yichsiku. Lefi Zen Imsa Sha'oyle Bob Yichsiku B'chol Gulas Oyle Mitzrayim B'dar B'tzafnu B'mizrach. According to this understanding, they took over everything, the southern area and the northern area and the western area. The Rak B'Sad Ma'ariv Lo Yagiyu Aksei Agvul HaMaravi. According to this understanding, it didn't go all the way to the western side, it only went to Kiziv, because the real Gavul of Ma'ariv was Shuayam. And this is a little bit more towards the inside. He says there was a little narrow strip, that they weren't machzik. Which is interesting how they learn it, but I think it means over here, not that they went all the way up north. It means that there was, over here, there was a certain part up north, like you have here in the dotted line. Ulefize oisifa rampa grola farish, shehano haniske behemshech hamishka. That this noha that we're dealing with, because it says uminano umeamona v'lifnim. Now this noha is generic. It doesn't say, it doesn't give it a name. Normally you have Nahar Paras. We mentioned it in Nahar, right? It doesn't mention it. The Yarden, it doesn't mention which Noah we're talking about over here. So he says, Anonis kebehem shechamisha eni Nahar eni Noah b'tzofim mizrach haaretz eluhu nachal mitzrayim hanitzki b'posik kigvul dorim ma'ariv shel aretz. What this Nahar is talking is, we mentioned over here, if you look at the picture, on the bottom left-hand side, with Minanoah v'lifnim, there's a small strip of Nahar over there. If you look, it has with an arrow, HaNahar, and that's the Nahar that we're talking about, and we're talking about the southwest corner of Eretz Yisrael for the Oilei Bovel. Yisharim Shenachum Mitzrayim Hu Vadi Al Arish. Okay. Yisharim Shu Nilis. Some say that it went all the way to the Nilis. If you look here, this is one of the big chedushim. That's the Tanag Yosef ben Azil and the Radak. The Hainu Ashlucha Mizrachas B'Yosef Shel Daltsois Hanilis. The most eastern portion of the Nile was where it went.
Even Kiddush Rishayna or just
What?
Even Kiddush Rishayna or just Kiddush Niyos?
Kiddush Rishayna for sure. Yeah.
So we left Mitzrayim, they were right away in Eretz Yisrael?
Yeah. No, not really, because it comes out that it's supposed to be. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Yeah.
How does it work with the pasuk in Ivania?
Some say
saying it implies that it's not part of Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you something. It's brought down that the Nile, it'll be up to the Nile when Mashiach comes. So it seems to be, it wasn't from the Oile Mitzrayim. Lefibri Zeh, according, at least that's how most of the Welt learns. You're right. Lefi Zeh, Kziv Mitsuya Be'emsa Ruach Ma'ariv. Kziv was at in the middle over there. If you see, on the right, on the western side, Bein Hanor Shubedarim Ma'ariv, Lebein Hari Amona Shubetzofa Ma'ariv. It was between the southern portion, that's in the southern portion. So Kziv was like center, and then you have Amona. It wasn't right up to the sea, but it was a little distant from the sea. All this strip of land that's right by the seashore, and it goes from Kiziv until the Yam. That's how long it is. So he says it was Machzikit, the Mitzrayim, not the Oil Bavel.
Why Oleh Bavel didn't? Why didn't Oleh Bavel occupy that?
There weren't enough people who were willing to come up, come back from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. There was a shortage of you think every person went?
But after that strip, that narrow strip along the beach,
I don't know why they didn't. I can't tell you. These are the facts on the ground. But if you look here, he says over here, it's very, very muddied exactly which each area is. But he says the Chazon Ish writes, Mefarish, the Kavonis Divri HaMishnah, when our Mishnah makes a statement, it says over here, the way to work it is that you have to take a limtoyach. How would you say limtoyach?
Stretch.
Huh?
Stretch
a band from Balachsoy on an angle Mikiziv Kizivina from Kiziv, that was the northern part of Olei Bavel, Ad Amona, until Amona, which was all the way up north. The Kavnois Mikiziv the Roima, Ad Nachum Mitzrayim. And then take another one, because Kiziv was the center of this area. You have over there that, if you look, there's a straight line going from Amona to Kiziv, and then you have a straight line going from Kiziv until the Nahar. These lines are in the Mediterranean Sea. Anything that was in that line, Oile Bavel did take possession. Anything that was further out by the Yam, that was already Oil Mitzrayim.
Why is whatever is in the ocean no gas?
Why? Okay, so there's two ways of learning it. If you look at the Toseftis, there's one way of learning that technically there were islands on the outer part, so those islands were also considered part of Eretz Yisrael. That's one way of learning. Then there's also that say that that area by the Mediterranean Sea, if you go further west, everything west of it, continuing in on the Mediterranean Sea, is part of Eretz Yisrael. So for the Oilei Mitzrayim, everything was Eretz Yisrael. For Pashas Rashi doesn't learn like that in the Chumash, but that's how they learn it. Anything that was on this line from Ammon to Keziv and from Keziv to Nahar were part of Oilei Bavel. But further west of that, we did not consider it Oilei Bavel.
If they weren't massive in the Tzur, how are they massive in the Yam?
I think it was only by Kizif that they weren't maksik under Mitzvah. But everything else they were maksik under Mitzvah. Only that little strip of land by Kizif, it seems.
Between Ksiv and Akko.
That's why there's two separate lines?
I think
Because that's exception.
I don't know. Could be. This is a very difficult piece to understand unless you have maps, and you have to look. There's a whole bunch of different maps. We're using this map, but there are other maps as well that give it a little bit of a different look to it. You can look at the art scroll on Masechta, on the Yerushalmi, on Masechta Shvius. It has a whole completely different type of map. Okay, that ends this Mishnah. Now, in order to start the next Mishnah, we have to have another time a Hagdorah. Let's just start it for a couple of minutes. We call this something called Eretz Surya, Syria. For some reason, Eretz Surya had a special status. So he says over here, Be'eretz Zu, Mishnah Zu, the second Mishnah, Mavaya Tana Din Shvius L'Gab Be'eretz Surya. Where some reason, because we lived there a lot, it got a special status of Chutz La'aretz, even though it was actually technically Chutz La'aretz. And the famous halacha that you know about Eretz Surya is different, has to do with challah. We know you have to give chal to a kohen. We know that Eretz Yisrael is tahara. In those days, the Kohen kept tahara. But once you went to Chutz La'aretz, Eretz Ha'amim is mitame. So they used to give challah. They used to separate two challahs. There's a whole Mishnayos and Masechta challah, and sometimes one of the challahs they gave to a kohen to eat, even though it was betuma, and the other one was the one that was the real challah they had to burn because it's Eretz Ha'amim. Well, we're going to be dealing with Eretz Surya L'Gab, the din of Shvius. And where was Eretz Surya situated? You have it over here on the picture. Oh, yeah, Surya. It's right outside the dotted line of Oilei Bavel. Shilim Mizrachis Marav Shel Eretz Yisrael. It's I don't know what he means, Marav, but he said it's basically right by the western border, the eastern part of Eretz Yisrael. And in B'Tokivus Eretz Yisrael, it was not considered part of the actual borders of Eretz Yisrael. Even though Surya, we were machma to have different halachos of Shvius of Eretz Yisrael, we weren't as stringent vis-a-vis Eretz Surya than Eretz Yisrael. And I mentioned tomorrow we're going to go into the actual Hadamah. We're from a Rambam in order to understand this, to be able to understand what Eretz Surya was all about and why we gave it a greater stringency over the rest of Chutz La'aretz. We'll stop over here. Lefika Chibel and Torah Mitzvahs, Shenamar Adonai Chovetz L'Matzuko Yagol Torah V'Yadi.